So, it was very surprising when we heard it for the first time, but it appears that Pep Guardiola will eventually get to manage a national team for the first time in his managerial career. The Spanish tactician has already enjoyed a lot of success at club level, and perhaps now he wants to switch gears. Meanwhile, we need to discuss the problems N'Golo Kante is facing at Chelsea right now. Once a modicum of consistency, the energetic midfielder is now struggling to showcase the form that has made him one of the finest players on the planet. Is this the beginning of the end for the smiling assassin? Following Inter's win over Juventus and AC Milan's draw against Bologna, we're certain that the finale to this year's Serie A is going to be a nail-biting one. Eden Hazard's career at Real Madrid is going nowhere, and the Belgian is now looking to make a move elsewhere during the upcoming summer transfer window. So you all know the drill. Hit the subscribe button, make sure to turn your notifications on, dim the lights, and get ready for your daily dose of all things football. Before we get started, we want to share the sponsor of today's video. The OneFootball app is the ultimate football platform and is a must-have for every football fan so that you can follow all of your favourite leagues, teams and players all the time right from your phone. You can be sure to turn on notifications for specific players to be instantly alerted when they score a goal or when they are involved in other breaking news. It is the best and easiest way to stay up to date with everything football. Click the link in the description down below to download the app right now. You won't regret it. On Wednesday evening, Eden Hazard would have liked to have returned to Stamford Bridge in the Champions League, a field where he put many players to task and scored a bunch of goals in the jersey of Chelsea Football Club. But the former Blues player who moved to Real Madrid in 2019 unfortunately was nowhere to be found. Blame it on a new injury. Indeed, the Belgian had a osteosynthesis plate removed from his right fibula, according to the Spanish Giants, on March 29th. In a serious fix, the Belgian has already resumed training on his own and intends to return to football very quickly by the end of the season. A complicated season once again for Hazard. Behind Vinicius Jr. in the hierarchy, the Belgian international has made 23 appearances in all comps, including 9 as a starter. He scored 1 goal and delivered 2 assists, a meagre record when you know his talent and his abilities. At Real Madrid, they've not forgotten his qualities and his value despite his difficulties. At the start of the week, AS explained that the Meringues had a very specific plan in mind for the Belgian, namely to loan him out next season so that he can play and regain his level. If successful, Real Madrid, who are also counting on the player to have a good World Cup, aim to sell him in the summer of 2023, 1 year from the end of his contract. And it appears that a club is ready to welcome him. Arsenal have initiated the first contact with the Madrid entourage, a simple inquiry at the start, but according to our research, the Gunners returned to the charge this week. A new meeting took place to discuss a possible loan next season, as was the case with Ødegaard and Ceballos. However, the game is far from over for the Londoners. According to reports, Eden Hazard, whose heart belonged to Chelsea for many years, does not want to leave Real Madrid this summer. At present, he even plans to go to the end of his contract, which ends in 2 years. The former Lille player is convinced he can still win back his place in the Spanish capital next year. This is despite the fact that he's had 3 difficult seasons and that several big stars are likely to arrive this summer 2022, such as Kylian Mbappe. He wants to maintain stability as the World Cup approaches, which will take place between November and December in Qatar. This potentially thwarts Real Madrid's plans at the moment, but the transfer window has not started and Hazard could review his position. Who will win Serie A this season? In turns, Napoli, Inter and AC Milan took the lead without managing to widen the gap. Leaders since mid-February, the Rossoneri also lost ground after their draw against Bologna last Monday. This means that 7 days from the end of the championship, only 4 points separate the 3 contenders, and the calendars are more or less similar since all the games between the top 4 with Juventus have already taken place. A brief update on everyone's situation before tackling this exciting final sprint. AC Milan. The Lombards shot themselves in the foot after being held to a draw at San Siro and have been worrying about their offensive weaknesses for several weeks. Nevertheless, they have some advantages. That of being the current leaders and therefore of controlling their destiny, of having an almost complete squad to end the season, and a certain thirst for victory since the last Scudetto triumph dates back to 2011. Milan, on the other hand, have a delicate end to their calendar, with games against Lazio, Fiorentina, Hellas, Atalanta and Sassuolo to conclude. Napoli. Only twice Italian champions in their history when Maradona ruled Italy, Napoli this time around rely on the collective to try and snatch their third title. Only 1 point behind the Rossoneri, the giants from the south of the country have the momentum with them. They've only lost once in the second half of the season, but it was at home against AC Milan. There is also the factor Victor Osimhen, who has found the net 15 times in Serie A. The Partenopei will have 2 testing games next at Fiorentina and Roma before taking on teams that they're expected to beat. Inter Milan. The Nerazzurri are completely revived after winning against Juventus in Turin, thus eliminating the old lady from the title race. The bad run of results between January and February seems to have passed, even if the Dzeko-Martinez duo is still sticking their tongues out. Still, the defending champions probably have the easiest schedule compared to their rivals, and a superior goal difference. It will certainly be important since they take on Hellas and Roma, but the other opponents are in the bottom half of the table. He's not immortal. The way he plays physically, you can see he's struggling. These are the words of former France international Emmanuel Petit. And there is no need to dissect the statements either. During an interview with an English media outlet, Petit rightly pointed out that the Chelsea man is struggling and the manner in which he approaches the game has finally caught up to him. We can't argue with this. Kanté has simply not been himself this season. He's played 29 league games for Chelsea this season and only 15 have been starts. The Frenchman has gone through a lot of fitness issues during this time, and Thomas Tuchel has gone for a very cautious approach while selecting him, even when he's fit. At the age of 31, Kanté's minutes on the pitch are not supposed to be managed in this way, but when you have an injury record as bad as Kanté, you have no other option. In the game against Real Madrid, Kanté was at his ineffective worst and was substituted at half-time. This was the first time the midfielder was withdrawn at half-time because of his performances on the pitch. That's never happened before. During the game, the experienced midfielder managed 0 interceptions, 0 dribbles, and 0 progressive runs. The Madrid midfield ran riot around him, and he was struggling. That performance was a stark contrast to the man-of-the-match displays he put on for Chelsea against the same opponent last year in the Champions League semi-finals. However, we need to talk about why Kanté is struggling all of a sudden. If you ask us, it's because Kanté's playing style is too unique and too loyal. The former Leicester man is the sort of player who will sacrifice glamour for the greater good. If you want someone else to do the dirty job for you, Kanté's your man. And this is now caught up to him. In a few months' time, Kanté will no longer be a gut-busting midfielder, and even if he will bring a lot of energy into his displays when on song, it won't happen regularly. So what happens now? Well, to begin with, Chelsea need to start looking at life after Kanté, especially due to the fact that Kanté's declining. The Blues must already be working on that. Kanté, meanwhile, will have to reconfigure his playing style if he intends to keep playing at the top for a few more years. Let's see what happens first. For someone who's won pretty much everything European football has on offer, Pep Guardiola must be feeling what he should be doing next. A few years ago, we do remember the current Man City boss talking about wanting to manage a national team. Of course, it does sound amazing and will look even better if he ends up winning the World Cup. Maybe the time is near, after it was revealed that the Brazilian National Football Federation has approached Guardiola over the prospect of becoming the country's next manager. After all this time spent in the north of England, it's not impossible that Guardiola wants a change of scenery. In football, nothing's forever, and the former midfielder knows it well. He's already prepared a future plan for the rest of his career. Asked about the rest of his career and the possibility of him becoming a coach, Pep Guardiola had also replied, "If a national team will be my next step, yes." While the citizens are having a good season and have just won against Atletico Madrid, partly thanks to a great performance from Phil Foden, Guardiola is of interest to many people. Recently, Marca announced that Brazil absolutely wanted to recruit the Spanish tactician and might have already approached him with this in mind, a possibility that could not leave him totally insensitive. Tite, the current manager of the Seleção, has said that he will leave his post after the 2022 World Cup, which means that the Kings of Samba are going to be looking for a new manager, and according to the Spanish media, Guardiola has already been offered a good package by the South Americans if he agrees to leave Manchester City. So fingers crossed, anything can happen.